35-year-old construction worker Thomas Williams and his girlfriend, 40-year-old Debbie Kirby, are suing former friends 24-year-old construction worker Brian Grutel and his girlfriend, 21-year-old cashier Sandra Gilkerson. Thomas and Debbie say the young couple owes for a loan to keep Brian out of jail.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 603 on the calendar in the matter of Williams Kirby versus Grutel Gilkerson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right. Who's speaking?
I am.
What is your last name, sir?
Williams.
Mr. Williams, according to your complaint, you loaned this defendant, actually both of them, but it was for his use, $600 because he was facing a period of 15 days in jail.
Yes, we did.
And he never paid you back the money.
That's right.
According to you, this defendant, Gilkerson?
Yes.
Was also party to that loan.
Yes.
Because it was she who you knew.
That's right.
Okay. How do you know each other?
Me and her mother were best friends since we were 4 years old.
So she's the child of a good friend of yours?
Correct.
Who got the call about this money?
Actually, me and Sandra had discussed it, loaning money, and then...
Well, tell me about the discussion. Where did it take place? When did it take place?
Go ahead.
Debbie approached me. Sandra approached her, wanting to borrow $600.
No. I want to hear from her when Sandra approached you.
Okay, Sandra come to me in January and asked me if she could borrow some money to help to get Brian out of some trouble he was in.
Did she tell you what kind of trouble?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said that he just had tickets and fines and that needed the money so he didn't go to jail, and I didn't want him to go to jail.
You didn't want him, or she didn't want him to go?
She didn't want him to, but I didn't want him for her.
So it was just fines?
Correct.
How much money did she say he needed?
He needed $600.
What did you tell her?
I told her that I had to talk to Tom and that we would get back with her. And then we discussed it, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't Sandra that had to pay all the money back. I wanted Brian to be a part of it because I didn't want Sandra liable for him.
Did you ever speak to him?
I did not speak to Brian, no. Tom did.
Okay. Now it's your game.
Debbie come and told me that Sandra wanted to borrow this money, but she had reservations about Brian, and she wanted me to talk to Brian because she didn't want Sandra at that point to get stuck with this whole thing. So I went and I talked to Brian one-on-one.
You went to his house?
Yes, we were at his house where he lives with Sandra, her house. We were on his porch, and I told him, you guys want to borrow this money, and you had Sandra come ask for it. It's for you, it's your debt also. I don't care if you guys break up, I don't care if you move away, I don't care what happens, it's your debt too.
And what did he say?
He said he was cool with that, and he just needed to pay these fines.
Is that what he said? He's cool with that?
No, I said I understood.
Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm cool with that.
You cool with that? And you said you understood that.
Yeah, I agreed.
You know what that's like? Did you ever, do a lineup where you have the victim looking at the group of people, and the detective says, do you recognize anybody as the person who robbed you? And the robber raises his hand, it was me. I'm glad we've resolved that. You understood this was your debt, all right? Who did you give the $600 to?
Both of them at the same time.
A check or cash?
Cash.
Cash.
Okay. Now you don't have to say anything else for a while. Go.
It wasn't $600. I did have some traffic fines that were going to be due. I asked Sandra because she was my girlfriend. I didn't have a job at the time. I had just lost it. It wasn't, I didn't know Sandra was...
Now, do you see how quiet he was? Now you're not allowed to speak.
All right.
Okay, good.
I didn't know Sandra was going to ask these guys, but I had asked her if there was anything she could do to help me. It was only $240 that they gave us because my fines were only $300. That's all they equaled up to. But all she was able to give us was $240. We made one payment. It was not said to be paid at the beginning of the month. It was just every month they wanted $30. And yes, that was understood. She was on welfare at the time, and that's how she was going to help me pay them back. Until I found a job, she was going to give them $30 a month until it was paid off, or I found a job and was able to contribute to the loan.
So you mean I, as a taxpayer who pays tax, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes.
Let me make this easier for you so that I can keep him interested. Bird, who is a taxpayer, who works and pays his taxes, part of which go to support people who cannot or will not support themselves through welfare. Bird was going to pay for your fines.
That's not the way it.
Well, that's what it is. Do
seems
you
like
understand that? Do you
Yeah,
understand that, Officer Bird?
it works that way.
She's getting welfare because you have children, I assume.
I have a son.
You have a child. Who's the father of that child? Him?
No.
Somebody else. So because you are a single parent and have a child, you get welfare. You were going to take $30 from your small welfare benefits and pay back his debt.
It was mine also, ma'am.
I don't care
It was the
whose
baby's
debt it
money.
was. How can you agree to pay back a debt for somebody when all you get is mere existence money for you and your child? How could you afford $30 a month? They must pay you an awful lot for welfare.
No, they don't.
But it was able to be afforded until I was able to find a job, and then she wouldn't have been paying it no more because it was my fines to be paid.
Just a second. Now, I don't want you to say anything else. Miss Gilkerson, when did Mr. Grutel first tell you that he needed money to pay these fines?
Sometime in the beginning of January,
Where were you when he told you?
at my house,
And who lives at your house?
me and my son,
Who else?
we were staying up the street at a friend's house.
At a friend's house.
Yes.
Which friend?
My friend Heather.
And where was he staying?
He was staying at his mother's.
Sure he was.
That's not,
Sure.
all of that's a lie.
Of course. Sure he was staying at his
I was staying at my mother's house. Like I said, it wasn't
Now,
going to be with her.
Are you telling me that you never stayed with Miss Gilkerson?
Yeah, I'm not
He
going to
stayed
say.
the night.
Yes, ma'am. I have spent the night, but I didn't live
Of
there.
course you have. And you just pick the nights that you stay there, and at the other times you stay with your mom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what kind of fines were these? What were they for,
Just
sir?
traffic. When I
Traffic.
first got my license, I didn't have my insurance and everything, so that made it a bunch more problems for me.
Well, what does that mean? You didn't have your insurance?
I wasn't responsible.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Williams and his girlfriend Debbie Kirby say former friends Brian Grutel and girlfriend Sandra Gilkerson owe for a loan to keep Brian out of jail.
Were all the fines for not having insurance?
No.
What were they for?
Driving without a license as well.
Okay, so not only didn't you have insurance, but you didn't have a license.
Yes, ma'am.
How many tickets did you have in total?
Probably 3.
So this is my question to you. Judge gave you so much time to get the money together.
And to produce a valid driver's license.
When was that?
I'll say January 15th. I'm not for sure at this time.
Okay. Now, when you paid the fines, you got a receipt.
Yes, I didn't bring it. I'm sorry.
Now, did you think that I was stupid?
No, ma'am.
You pay the fines, and then you get a receipt
Right.
that you bring back to the court, and then the matter is dismissed, right?
Yes.
Where's the receipt?
I was only able to pay one fine because they didn't give me enough money to pay all of it.
That's fine. Where's the
I didn't
receipt for
bring
the
it.
one
I couldn't
fine?
find it. It was a
Now,
last
are you
minute.
still living in the same location
Yes.
that you were living before?
Yes.
And is the court in the same city where you live?
Yes.
Yes. So what you do is you take a ride down or walk
Oh, I can get
down.
a copy.
No, you do that before you come to court.
I'm sorry.
Me too. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love Sandra like she was my daughter, and this is just killing me.
I couldn't say the right words for her to understand my side of the story.
They're all living on welfare, got it taken, they're all doing drugs.
I got papers proving they're both liars.
They bought a quarter-pound of weed and tried to flip it over and messed it up just like they do everything else.
The reason he's saying that is because he stole a quarter-pound of weed from my sister's ex-boyfriend and got caught and told everybody charge it to the game.
They smoked it instead of sold it.
He lives off her disability and welfare, and they're a bunch of frauds.
He was fired from his job because he was buying alcohol for minors at McDonald's where he was working at.
He lied.
It's crazy, we're just glad we got our money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hamilton versus Cleveland, step forward, please.
22-year-old child care provider Hillary Hamilton is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old construction worker Cameron Kleeman, for an unpaid truck loan and for unpaid rent. Cameron says he owes Hillary nothing.
Ms. Hamilton, you claim a loan to Mr. Kleeman
Yes, ma'am.
in the amount of $1,900.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What was your relationship to him?
I was his girlfriend.
What did you loan him the money for?
I loaned him money for a truck.
Tell me about how it came to be that he needed money for a truck and he asked you for a loan.
He didn't have a job, and he asked me.
What did he say?
He asked me if he could have some money to buy a truck so that he can get a job.
Were you living together at the time?
We were getting ready to live together. I'm pregnant with his child.
Where did you get the money from?
My income tax.
Your income tax refund? Mm-hmm. So when did you give him the money?
I wrote a check out to the Ford company where we got the truck, and
And how much was the check for?
$1,500.
Okay. And you acknowledge that she gave you $1,500. Is that right, sir, towards
Yes,
the down
ma'am.
payment of the truck?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay. Now, you tell me your version, sir, of how and why you got this $1,500.
The conversation between me and her of
Yes.
it being a loan never arose. She never said it was a loan. She,
Well, what do you think it was?
Well, I mean, we were together at the time and everything else, you know. I mean, she put the money down for our apartment to move in together. She put the $1,500 down for the loan on the truck. She co-signed for me because I didn't have good enough credit to be able to facilitate a loan. And so, I mean, it never became a loan until she moved out of the apartment we were living in, and she came to me and asked me what I was going to do about owing her the money. And my reply to her was, I don't owe you any money. I was working. I was paying all my bills and stuff that I had incurred myself.
But you couldn't work anymore if you didn't have a truck that was working.
Well, that's true. My truck
Just
was
a
in the
second,
process.
so you wouldn't have been able to work.
True.
Mr. Kleeman, I want you to put aside the issue of a contract with her for a moment. There came a time when you no longer were living together. You moved into an apartment, which is the other part of your claim, that you laid out his half of the rent, $400.
Yes, ma'am.
What caused you to separate?
He was dating another girl while I was living there with him.
That's not true.
Just a second. And how long had you actually lived together in this apartment?
11 days.
Who was supposed to make payments on the truck?
She provided the $1,500 down. I was supposed to make, I had a promissory note signed to pay $500 within 2 weeks of the time of the loan was signed and everything. And I'd talked to Victor, the guy at Marshall Mize Ford there in Chattanooga, and told him that I wasn't going to be able to make it because I had to go with my father out of town.
So what happened?
I gave them $250 in a money order, and then I paid them, it was $278 with everything, taxes and all.
Okay, so you had the truck for about 2 weeks before
Yes,
you
ma'am.
and the plaintiff separated.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the truck?
About a week and a half after she had moved out, that one of my friends had wrecked the truck.
What was one of your friends doing driving the truck?
And taking one of my other friends to work because I was in no shape to drive.
Why?
I had pneumonia. I couldn't even get out of the bed.
Did you have insurance on this truck?
I had liability, and that was it.
So somebody wrecked the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Now who's responsible for all the payments on the truck?
I was, me and Miss Hamilton.
Did you pay for it?
Yes, ma'am, I made every payment up until the week it got repossessed.
What do you mean it got repossessed? I thought it was wrecked.
It was wrecked, yes, ma'am.
And was it still drivable?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying to me, sir, is by the time they repossessed the truck, it had already been damaged by a buddy of yours, and the total purchase price of the truck was what?
I believe it was $9,000.
You owe to the credit company a whole bunch of money.
No, ma'am. Supposedly, Miss Hamilton here, from what she's told my mother, she's found somebody to purchase the vehicle. They're going to get it fixed and everything else, and they've taken over the loan on the
Is that
vehicle.
right?
The truck's still at Marshall Mize Ford. It's still sitting there. But I do have the paperwork on the truck where nothing's been paid on it except for what I've paid.
How much have you paid?
$1,500.
Only the $1,500. So you didn't make any monthly payments on
Yes,
the truck?
ma'am. I made the $500 promise.
I'm not talking about the $500. That was the
No.
down payment. When did your friend have an accident in the truck?
Okay, she moved out, I believe that was Friday. It happened the following Sunday.
Okay. And weren't you supposed to make a payment in March?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Did you make a payment in March?
I didn't make the first weekly payment. It was set up on a weekly plan. I didn't,
Why didn't you make the payment?
because I had totally forgotten about it because I had made the $250 payment, and then I turned around and made another $278 payment, and I'd totally forgotten about it. Well, the guy at Marshall Mize
All right, so
called.
let's figure out what you did. Let me tell you all the problems that you had. First of all, you're supposed to come up with the other money after she put down the money, and you had to go out of town with your father.
Right.
Then you let somebody else drive the truck who had an accident.
Right.
Then you didn't make the next payment that you were supposed to make on the truck in March because you totally forgot about it.
Yes.
You're a pretty irresponsible person.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is I forgot about the weekly payment. It was set up on a weekly payment plan.
You forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. And the man from Marshall Mize called me.
Don't tell me the man from Marshall Mize for them. Not interested. You owe her $1,500. Now let's hear about this rent business, Miss Hamilton.
I have a lease saying what I paid on the apartment, which was $614 plus $10 deposit for the keys. And he has never taken me off the lease when he lived there. I moved out before the lease even started.
Yeah, so you signed the lease. What do you
But I
want?
wasn't living there.
I don't care. You signed the lease. You're supposed to use your brain and think. How long did you live in that apartment, Mr. Kleeman?
I lived in there until the very end of February.
How much rent did you pay?
I paid $400.
Who did you pay to?
Bender Realty, because I had to have the rent for the March, be able to move out, and they were going to keep the $300 security deposit.
Well, was that through her $300 security deposit?
That's out of the money that she put down off the...
Did you pay any rent for March?
No, I didn't live there.
Well, I know, neither did he. He says he paid rent for March.
That's not what they've told me.
I don't believe him either. Did you pay any rent for February, sir?
No, ma'am, I didn't. February was included in the $614.50.
Okay, did you pay any part of that?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Why not?
Because she had said that she would be more than willing to put up the money so that we can move out, so that she can move out. Because she was wanting to move out from her parents' house. I was not in a situation to really argue or anything.
I thought you were working, sir. You kept telling
Yes,
me I was
ma'am, I was
working.
working.
What kind of work were you doing? You didn't have money for a
Construction work.
car. You didn't have money for rent. You didn't have money for security.
I was working
What kind of work were you doing?
Working construction.
Well, what were you doing with the money?
I only got paid every 2 weeks, and there was
What
bills
were you
and
doing
stuff,
with the money that you
Paying
were
other-
earning from construction?
paying other bills and stuff that I had.
What are the
acquired.
bills?
I had a truck payment and insurance on my '95 Dodge Dakota. I have personal debts and stuff to my parents.
Grow up. I mean, is she a person who's independently wealthy?
No, ma'am.
She got a tax return. Let me explain something to you. You're supposed to be the hunter. You're supposed to provide the shelter, gather the food.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not supposed to be the schnurrer. Do you know what a schnurrer is?
No, ma'am, I don't.
I know you don't. A schnurrer is the Yiddish word for taker. Somebody your size isn't supposed to be a taker. They're supposed to be responsible. Responsible for their own transportation, responsible for their own housing. She wasn't even asking you to take care of her. She was just asking you to take care of yourself. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,807. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 533 on the calendar in the matter of Ellis versus Ellis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes.
this is your mom?
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
24.
I see here that you have children. How many children do you have?
4.
They all live with you?
Yes.
You hesitated for a minute. What does that mean?
Nothing. Just nothing.
Do your children live with you?
All 4
Or
of
do
them,
you
yeah.
live with your children?
Live with my children. All 4. And my wife.
Because that has something to do with this. Has your mother been helpful to you in the past?
Sort of, kinda.
What does that mean, sort of, kind of?
Well, you know, when I asked her to help me do things, when I needed it, she was there.
Did your mother work?
Not the present time, no.
Did she work when you were growing up?
Yes, she did.
This case has to do with the fact, Mrs. Ellis, that you say that your son came to you recently and
Yes.
said that he was having some difficulty with a car and that he needed some money. Is that right?
Yes.
What kind of difficulty was he having with his car?
It was repossessed again.
And how much money did he need?
$4,123.76.
And I gather from your complaint that you weren't anxious to give him that money immediately. Is that right?
That's true.
Why is that?
Because, like he said, I've helped him in the past. I'm always there for him. And the money that I would help him with, I would give it to him from my savings. It was my money. But this $4,000 that we're speaking of, that came from a credit card. That's borrowing from Paul to loan to Peter, and you have to pay that money back.
Did he come to you asking you for this money?
Yes, he did.
And what did you initially tell him?
I told him no. I told him I think I've done enough.
What did he say?
He begged me and sobbed and asked me to give him another chance, and I'll prove it to you, Mom. Just, you know, if you loaned it to me this last time, I promise you, I'm going to pay you this money back. He cried and everything, but I told him no. And when I told him no, I was so happy, I was so proud of myself that I said no. I was like, yes, I actually turned this guy down, so he left, and he went to my mom's house, and he cried to her. And I guess she's never seen him cry. So she called me and said, can you just give him one more chance? I think he's going to own up to this. I think he's going to really pay you this money back.
What kind of car was it that was repossessed?
97 Dodge Stratus.
So you ultimately gave in, and you gave him $4,123. What was the arrangement as far as repaying you?
I loaned him the $4,123.76. He says gave. I just want to correct you because you said gave. I'm sorry, but you said gave, and that's what he keeps saying gave. It wasn't gave.
Go ahead.
Okay. I loaned him the money August the 17th, and he was supposed to give me $500 every 2 weeks to be paid in full by December the 10th, and any accrued interest that was left over, he would give me that with the next pay, which was December the 24th. And I don't want you to think that I'm kind of like, well, why would you want all this money for this guy? You know, you got these kids. He has a good job, but he was getting a second job that my husband was getting for him. And he promised me that was the money he's going to pay me from. And after I loaned him the money, no second job.
But he did make some payments to you.
Yeah.
Not exactly on time, but $200 or $500 in August and October, and then he gave you a payment in December of $250.
Yes.
So he repaid you a total of $1,250.
Yes.
And then what happened, Mrs. Ellis?
The date he gave me, $250, was the date that the loan was supposed to be paid off, which was December the 10th. He gave my sister the $250 and told her to tell me he would give me the rest of the money with his income tax. He got his income tax and no money.
Did you call him?
Yeah, but I was harassing him when I called him.
Well, what were you saying to him?
I need a payment. I need to pay this credit card. And he would tell me, you know, I got kids over here I got to feed, and would give me the rundown on the things that's going on in his life, but never mind what's going on in my life.
And then there came a point when he told you that you couldn't see your grandchildren?
Yeah. Every time he gets mad at me about something, he holds those kids hostage. Every time. Every time he gets mad at me about something, I cannot see those grandkids.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3 from him. I have 5 total, but I have 3 by him.
I thought he said he had 4 children.
He has a stepchild.
And did you see your grandchildren regularly before all this happened? Have you seen them?
Whenever he wasn't mad at me.
Have you seen them recently?
No, I haven't seen. The last time I saw the kids were in January.
All right, Mr. Ellis, now I'll hear from you, sir.
All righty. Oh, well, I needed the money because, you know, I had this, like back in 1999, she bought me a car. It was a piece of crap, broke down on me. And then, you know, I saved up some money. I said, look, I need help to get another car. So I asked her, I said, could you help me out get another car? She was like, no, 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 no. So I went and got the car on my own. Then, you know, I got in these financial situations, these bonds.
You didn't get the car on your own.
Shh, Mrs. Ellis.
He didn't get the car on his own.
Hey,
Just a minute. Just a minute. I'll get back to you.
So I went and got the car on my own, and then, you know, and then I was like, I found going to these financial situations. And then I came back to it when my car got repossessed. I said, I need you to help me get my car to repossession. You know, I begged and I pleaded. Yeah, I cried too. Because it hurt me. You know, I was real hurt.
What were you hurt about? It's a car.
No, I was hurt because, you know, this is my mom's. I'm like, you know, she should have been there for me faster. But, you know, nevertheless, she was there in the long run, and I got my car out. She say she, well, supposedly loaned me the money, but, you know, she gave it to me because she rightfully, you know, she owed me it, buying me that junk car.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chrysynthia Ellis says her son James Ellis owes for an unpaid loan. James says he's got 4 kids to support.
Go ahead.
And then, you know, I gave her I think $500, $250, you know, to help her out, you know.
What do you mean to help her out? Help her out.
I mean to help her out because she gave me the money. You know, I'm just helping out. I'm saying, look, you know, you ain't working, and here's some money to help you out. And then, you know, I told her about the income tax thing. You know, when that came around, you know, situations come up. I got 4 kids, got a wife, got responsibility. You know, hey.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Ellis. So you have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
How old are your 3 children?
3, 2, and soon to be 1.
Now, Mr. Ellis, do you make enough money to have 3 children?
I make enough to make ends meet, yeah.
When do you think it comes time for your mother to be able to put away for your mother and not to have to worry about a grown adult son who's old enough to be married, old enough to have a job, old enough to make 3 babies? When do you think that time comes?
I don't know. I'd ask her.
Well, I'm telling you, there comes a time when children are supposed to say about their parents, listen, they've brought me to a certain point, right? My mother's not a rich lady. She should be able to put some money away so that when it comes time that she can no longer work or she needs money for her old age and her retirement, she has some money. She's got to stop bailing me out. You don't buy a car that you can't afford. If you have a wife, let your wife get a job instead of having another baby. You get a second job. If your wife can't get a job because she has 3 young children,
Well,
because
she's
you have
in
3
school
young
right now.
basis, what?
She's in school right now, you know?
Well, that's,
About the
listen, Mr.
situation.
Ellis, that's fine. All of that is not your mother's responsibility. All of that is your responsibility.
Well,
And the fact that your mother, let us assume that your mother bought you a car in 1999. 1999 wasn't so long ago. According to you, you were a father in 1999. All right, so you were a big grown-up guy. So she bought you a car in 1999, and it turned out to be a lemon. So you think that she owed you? She doesn't owe you anything. She doesn't owe you anything.
well,
She owed you to bring you along a certain point in your life, and after that, whatever she gives you is really a gift out of the goodness of her heart. But this was clearly a loan. It was a loan because you paid her back some.
that's because I was just looking
No,
out.
no.
I was looking out being a nice guy.
No, when did you ever do that before, Mr. Ellis? I want to know when you ever did it before. When did you ever just gratuitously say to your mother, listen, here's $2,000, Mom, I want you to put it in your 401k.
Well, you know.
Well, you know, you don't, because
Can't
you don't
think
have
that.
anything extra.
Think that.
With 4 children and a wife who doesn't work and goes to school, you don't have anything extra. So this money that you gave her was not an extra money that you had. It was money that you owed her. Then she started to bug you about it because she's getting the bills every month and the interest is going up, and it's on her credit card. And then you had the gall to say to her, you won't see your grandchildren. What kind of business is that?
Well,
Why do you
it seemed
punish
like
your...
it wasn't good business at the time.
Why do you bring your children into it? What kind of a father brings their children into a dispute like that?
And I'm just saying, she get mad at me. I say, hey, case of the kids.
Well, but I'm asking you, Mr. Ellis, does that sound like a mature thing to you?
Wow.
Does that sound like a grown-up thing to you?
Well,
You know, your
can't
children
think back
enjoy
at
their...
that.
Hey, quiet, I'm speaking. You know, your wife may find you amusing, I don't. Your children enjoy seeing their grandmother. Why would you, as a good father, want to punish your children?
Because she's punishing me by harassing me about the money.
So, you're prepared to punish your little children because you don't like the way your mother is treating you. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're saying to me?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
She's-
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,873.
चैनल बहुत अच्छे से जो है काम कर रहा है। तो वो पहले मैं चैनल दिखा देती हूँ आपको, कुछ केस स्टडीज दिखाती हूँ, फिर मैं आपको बताती हूँ उनके स्क्रिप्ट कैसे निकालने हैं। 2-3 तरीके हैं, एक अपना स्क्रिप्ट भी लिख सकते हैं, एक जो ऑलरेडी वीडियो यूट्यूब के ऊपर मौजूद हैं और जो बहुत ज़्यादा व्यूज के साथ वीडियोस है, आप सेम टू सेम उनका स्क्रिप्ट भी ले सकते हैं, लेकिन उसको थोड़ा सा ना तरीके से कॉपी करना है, उसको कैसे निकालना है, उसको चेंज कैसे करना है, वो सारा मैं बताती हूँ। पहले मैं आपको कुछ चैनल के केस स्टडीज दिखाती हूँ। अभी हम बात करें स्टोरीज वाले चैनल की, तो ये देखें, आपको मेरी स्क्रीन शो हो रही होगी, एक चैनल है लिविंग विजडम के नाम से। इस चैनल के ऊपर छोटी छोटी कहानियां बनी हुई है। पहले इस चैनल पे शॉर्ट स्टोरीज आई हुई थी। ये देखें, इस चैनल के ऑलमोस्ट 1.1 मिलियन सब्सक्राइबर है और इसकी एक कहानियों वाला चैनल ये सारा ये ऑटोमेट है। इसकी एक वीडियो में प्ले करके दिखाती हूँ। इन्होंने बड़े अच्छे से एडिटिंग की हुई है। एडिटिंग ऐसी की है कि ऑडियंस हर पॉइंट पे हुक रहती है इनकी वीडियो पे। है इनकी वीडियो भी सिंपल नॉर्मल जैसे सबकी वीडियोस होती हैं, लेकिन इनका थोड़ा सा स्टाइल मैं शेयर कर देती हूँ। ये देखें, ये देख रहे हैं आप वीडियो कैसे बनी हुई है। इस वीडियो में आप लोगों ने देखा इसमें क्या बात थी डिफरेंट, वो ये थी कि ये बच्ची बीमार हुई तो पीछे खांसी की साउंड लग गई, एम्बुलेंस आई तो एम्बुलेंस की साउंड लग गई। इस तरह की छोटी छोटी साउंड्स इसके अंदर लगा के इस स्टोरी को उन्होंने बहुत ज्यादा अट्रैक्टिव बना दी कि ऑडियंस हुक रहा है। इसके अलावा इसके ऊपर ये जो तस्वीरें आगे पीछे तेजी से हो रही हैं, ये की फ्रेमिंग से भी हो सकता है, और वैसे इसके ऊपर आसान चीज ये है कि जूम इन जूम आउट का फिल्टर उन्होंने लगाया है। ये देखें, इसकी शॉर्ट देख लेते हैं, ज्यादा शॉर्ट है, ये 4-5 ही लॉन्ग वीडियोस हैं। ये देखें शॉर्ट कितनी ज्यादा अपलोड की हुई है इन्होंने, और इन पे ऊपर कितने ज्यादा व्यूज हैं। मोस्ट पॉपुलर वीडियो के ऊपर 34 मिलियन व्यूज हैं। तो ये बस एक केस स्टडी के तौर पे मैं शेयर करती हूँ। अब मैं बताती हूँ, अगर आपने किसी वीडियो का एज इट इज स्क्रिप्ट निकालना है तो वो कैसे निकालेंगे। ये हम वीडियो ओपन कर लेंगे। आई डोंट नो ये वीडियो ओपन क्यों नहीं हुई। खैर, स्क्रिप्ट जो भी वीडियोस होती है यूट्यूब पे ज्यादातर उनकी जो है वो ट्रांसक्रिप्ट नीचे ही लिखी होती है, ये ओपन होती है। मैं आपको बताती हूँ कैसे निकालना है। सेम इसी का ही। जी, आप अक्सर आपका क्या क्वेश्चन है? जी अक्सर पूछिए, आपने हाथ खड़ा किया, सवाल क्या आपका? जी सवाल पूछिए। जी मैम, आपसे सवाल पूछते हैं।
हाँ भैया। हाँ, नहीं वो ना ज्वाइन ऑडियो।
अच्छा चलें, ठीक है। तो मैं ये पहले एक बार क्लियर कर ही दूं कि जो वीडियोस पहले से यूट्यूब पे वो मौजूद हैं, उनका सेम टू सेम स्क्रिप्ट हमने कॉपी कैसे करना है वो सिखा देती हूँ। उसके बाद बताती हूँ कि अपना फ्रेश स्क्रिप्ट किस तरीके से हमने लिखना है। ये देख रहे हैं अभी वो थोड़ा सा मेरा ख्याल है इंटरनेट का क्या मसला चल रहा है, यूट्यूब जरा ओपन होने में थोड़ा टाइम लगा रहा है। बल्कि ओपन हो ही गया, मैं बता देती हूँ।